All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our playbook webinar, Mastering Storytelling with the folks from Vermeer. We will get started in about 1 minute, so just go ahead and get settled and get ready to go. Okay, Derek and Marty, if you are both ready, we will go ahead and get started. It is 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Today we have an exciting playbook webinar from the folks at Vermeer, Mastering Storytelling Lessons in the Art of Brand Storytelling from the team at Vermeer. I have Marty Grunder and Derek DeHaan on with me today. Marty, I'll let you go ahead and get the introductions going and get us started, okay?
Thank you, Emily. Very excited to have this playbook webinar. We were talking before. This is one of those topics that everyone should be very interested in. I'm very excited for the gift that we have of Vermeer sharing. They're an incredible company. I've been to their plant 6, 7 times. We're a big client of Vermeer's. We love the product that they make that I am most fond of is the Vermeer mini skid steers. Those of you that have been to Grunder Landscaping on a field trip here or followed me know that I truly believe they're the Swiss Army knife of the landscape industry. It's been a game-changing piece of equipment for us, not to mention the other things that they make that we use, stump grinders, brush chippers. We have a company that grinds all of our brush with a Vermeer horizontal grinder. They're an amazing company, takes up over a square mile of territory and outside of Pella, Iowa. And I'm very excited today that we have Derek DeHaan with us. Derek is the Senior Brand Experience Manager, Global Brand. He's a very smart guy with a lot to share. And I'm going to just sit back here and take notes and be an active student today. Derek, welcome to the Playbook webinar series. Take it away, sir.
Hey, Marty, thank you so much. Great to be here. Appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, hope everybody's having a great afternoon thus far. So, as Marty said, I help lead our brand experience team here at Vermeer. And as Marty mentioned too, here at Vermeer, kind of the corporate headquarters building, and then what we would call our founder's house, whereas our founder and his wife lived in this house their entire lives. That's on the other end of the mile, if you will. And like I said, that's why we consider this whole space here at our headquarters the Vermeer Mile, and that's what we term it as. And we'll talk a little bit deeper about that as well in the presentation too. But again, very excited to be here. I have been looking forward to this opportunity since we started talking about this months ago. So with that, I'm gonna kind of jump into specifically kind of the Vermeer purpose and strategy within our brand experience team. And we've kind of set this apart into three kind of specific categories, if you will: our why, our what, and our how. And really, our why every morning we wake up is to tell that Vermeer brand story, right? That's our why. That's what we get up to do each and every day. Our what is really some key areas that we kind of focus on, which is brand management, product launches and campaigns, and then local enablement. And local enablement is really working with our local dealers. So we have a global dealer network. Again, spans across, domestically, internationally, and we work with them and their local marketers to provide content, to provide offerings for them to be able to get that word of Vermeer and tell the Vermeer brand story out in their local areas as well. And then how, as I kind of mentioned, my particular portion within brand experience kind of falls on what we call our reputation side, so kind of the brand side, and then the revenue side. Of course, we have product on that, our yellow iron, what we consider, and then the different services that we offer as well. So those are kind of the three key areas of focus. And again, mine specifically being within that reputation brand side of things. And if we kind of go, like, if you're just thinking about, how do we think about setting up a brand specifically from like the very beginning, the foundation of what we do is really making sure that we have our brand and style guide set in place. So we understand, what are those areas that we want to highlight in our advertising, in our marketing, in the ways that we and have others experience, the brand itself. So setting the brand's tone, right? The logo, having that mark specifically identified so the marketplace, when they see this, they know that this is Vermeer. This also goes into typography, color palette. All those different things kind of make up this foundational piece of what your brand is. And then making sure that that's consistent throughout every single piece, every material, every experience that a customer has on the journey that they are with you. And again, this is really that foundational piece that we start with to make sure us internally, those that are working with us, whether it be partners, dealers, dealer marketers, they understand the way that we want the brand to be identified and put out there. And that's creating that consistency no matter where somebody picks it up at. And then if we go to the next slide, you'll kind of see here, what the way that I term this is, you know, there's a lot more to your brand, if you will, than just a logo, right? Like I would almost say it goes like this. It kind of stems or flows from this. You start with your logo, and then you've got a visual identity, you've got a brand identity, and then you've got your brand overall. And I'll kind of break those down even a little bit further. So you've got your logo, of course, which is your symbol or your mark, right? That's the piece that people recognize in the marketplace, right? When you see a logo mark, you understand that's that particular brand or that particular piece that you're looking at. And then you've got your visual identity. That's kind of going back to the previous slide of saying, here's the look, the feel, the colors, the typography, the imagery, the graphics, kind of that visual recognition of our reputation, right? That's what that is. And then if you go another layer deep, you've got your brand identity. And this is going beyond, I would say, like the decorative. Okay, so this goes beyond that look and feel. It's really getting into more of your mission, your values, that tone of voice that you have as a brand, like setting those things in place. So every experience, again, that an individual has with the brand always ties back to that. And then ultimately, like I said, you've got your brand, right? And that's the sum of all of these parts together. And really, a brand to me is this promise that you're making, right? And a good brand, of course, is keeping that promise, understanding that you've said, hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And we're making sure that we actually carry that out in the long run. So again, you can look at all of this on the screen here of all these things are a collection, right? Whether it be someone coming to the mile here at Vermeer for an experience, or seeing a piece of collateral at a dealership, or being at one of our customer events, all of these things together. It's not just one or two of these things. It's everything that creates that reputation, that experience with a brand. And that's super exciting.
Derek, when you talk about consistency, that's one of the things that I think I've done a very good job at my company. There's been times through the years where we've said, hey, we can save money if we just buy white trucks from here on out. We don't paint them forest green. Um, we've been very mindful about painting trucks green, walking through the trucks during the off season to make sure that any logos that are cracked from the sun or anything are replaced. The orientation of the clothing and so forth that we wear. What everyone watching most likely is smaller than Vermeer. Reduce this to the importance of consistency with a small business, taking into consideration budgets as well. Like how
Yeah.
important is consistency there?
Yeah, consistency is key. I mean, in terms of when somebody sees something from you, again, doesn't matter whether it be, in the drive-through somewhere, or whether it be on your grounds, or at a job site. Once they're seeing, your brand, your marking, your identification, that's all going into that reputation, into the mind of the customer of saying, hey, I'm now having an understanding, or actually even a deeper idea, a feeling about that particular brand. So that consistency needs to be there from start to finish. Whenever they're seeing something from you, like I said, that consistency is so key.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that's something that we often struggle with. I also think, the playing field has been leveled for smaller companies. It does make sense to have a good web presence and all the other things there that are associated with that brand. And I just think the consistency matters a lot. And I noticed that in what you're doing. Like I don't see a whole lot of off colors. That Vermeer logo looks really good on black. It does seem
Yes.
like, I'm guessing that from what I've seen from you all at Equip, at Grow, at Elevate, like there's consideration given to wherever that logo is, right?
Absolutely, yes. Like anywhere our mark is, and I would say even consistency of making sure that the mark or your logo isn't stretched, right? Or isn't used in an improper way or used in
Like
a different
pixelated,
color.
you mean, or
Yes,
something?
all
Yes, right.
absolutely. So yeah, so making sure you're actually even with us too, we have what we would consider like what we call like a bevel mark, if you will, of the Vermeer logo, and it's more of a kind of a dimensional logo. And we've actually had this kind of conversation around, sometimes when this is reproduced, it's not giving the right brand consistency that we're after. So how do we reduce that? How do we utilize our two, color flat logo more to make sure when reproduction is happening on somebody else's efforts, that consistency continues to play through and it's not, yes, hey, it's super pixelated or it looks all jaggedy
Yeah,
or elongated or stretched.
I think those are things that you should stand up for, even if you're small. Say you have three trucks, trying to be as consistent as you can with what you're doing. There really is an opportunity for a smaller company to be attentive to this stuff and, in a positive way, affect the brand. So thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so I mentioned before, here at Vermeer, we've got this mile. You can kind of see this visual here of the mile itself. So that what you're looking at the foreground there would be our corporate office, and then again, way in the distance at the end of the mile would be that founder's house, and all along here again is what we consider our Vermeer mile. And really, I bring this up because this is a key piece to the Vermeer, what we call the magic of Vermeer. And Marty, you've talked about experiencing coming here to Vermeer being on the mile. We really love, like when people come to Vermeer, that's what we want. We want more and more people to experience the culture, who Vermeer is, because we think if you come here and experience, who we are, what we're all about, you're going to be bought in. And so we've made more and more investments over the years into bringing more customers here, right? Bringing more partners here, letting them experience this. Nowadays, influencers, making sure that we're understanding, hey, this is what you get when you are with Vermeer, and making those relationships last, continuing on. That's really, again, a sweet spot, a passion point of mine specifically, and of ours as a group and brand experience here is knowing that experience, having it here on the mile, is something so worthwhile, and it's almost priceless in our opinion. If we can get somebody here, we know how valuable that's going to be for both parties
Right.
in the end of that.
Right. And our facility is a smidgen of the size of yours, but we feel the same way. Like when somebody comes here, we want them to have a positive experience and we want them to have an impactful experience. When I've been to Vermeer, everything from the avenue of flags that you have out there to the way the buildings are set up, I would not call any of your buildings fancy. I think they are very appropriate and they set off a vibe, and it looks like a very well run, very organized, very thoughtful manufacturing facility. And I think, I had a pretty much a dumpy little place to start my business in 42 years ago, Derek, but it was clean and it had our logo on it and our trucks were lined up. They were all backed into a spot. I think there's a sense of professionalism. I often joke, if you got to the Atlanta airport to get on a Delta Airlines flight and you looked out the window and the Delta plane had mud all over it and a dent in the fuselage, I don't think you're going to get on that plane. If a
Mhm.
police car pulls up behind you and the front end's dented and it's got mud all over it, I don't know that you're going to roll your window down. Like, I do think there are things like this with our small businesses. And I realize, Vermeer is $1 billion plus a year company, but I still think this stuff matters a lot to business. And I appreciate you touching on it.
Absolutely. And even, yeah, kind of going a little bit deeper on that too. Even, yeah, whatever, business size you are, even just the idea of having well lit areas, right? And signage, making sure you've got wayfinding for customers to get through. Just again, it really does tie back to that consistency of the brand and how people are going to then interpret and reflect that brand basically out in the marketplace as well.
Yeah, and not to like patronize you, but even the sign behind you, there was some thought that went into that was going to be your backdrop when you're on a webinar or when you're on a Zoom call with someone else or you're teaching, and its reputation. And I think things like that. that sign behind you 20 years ago might have cost a couple $1,000, but I think you could print off something like that. And we should be mindful. I know Emily, who's producing here today, I'm in a little studio. It's up on the second floor of our building. It's nothing fancy, but we're mindful of what people can say. And I think your brand is, it's everything, and it's how you're communicating. And certainly when you come across as organized and clean and attentive with that, I think that attracts more customers. I don't know that it's a reason. I guess what I'm saying, Derek, I don't know that it's a reason for somebody to do business with you, but if it wasn't done right, it would be a reason for somebody to think you're not who you say you are.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's again, being intentional about your brand. Like that's what it comes down to, is really being intentional about the way that you're gonna be put yourself out there, basically. And so yeah, love that discussion. Okay, so let's get to kind of the four P's here at Vermeer, and I love talking about this because this is really the foundation of who Vermeer is. And as you can read here, we've got principles, people, product, and profit. And this has been put in place. This was put in place, from our founding, basically. And the way that it's put here as well, in terms of the lineup of what you're reading first, second, third, and fourth, that's the way that we see things here at Vermeer as well. So principles are always first and foremost for us, right? And that really centers around the idea of the golden rule of treating others the way that you want to be treated. That's always our cornerstone. That's what we're always going after, making sure both internally and externally when we have, you know, conversations, when we're in relationships with people, like that's what we put at the heart of what we do. And then people second, right? People, we know people are the most important thing here at Vermeer. And that's again, it's a tribute to our leadership from the founding of Gary Vermeer doing what he did here at Vermeer to what we have in leadership now today. Those things are at the core of who we are, and those won't change. And that's what we continue going back to, developing those relationships around this idea of being a principal-led company. And that's a really wonderful thing for me to say as a team member as well.
The four P's are similar to the
So
four
now we're
P's.
going to talk a little bit deeper. Oh, yeah.
So I was just
Yep.
going to say
Go ahead,
it's
Marty.
funny. They're similar to the four P's that we teach here, principles present in every company, and ours are platform, people, process, profit. And it's a very similar mindset that you have. And it for those who've been following us for a long time, Derek, it drives it home. And I can tell you, everyone, from being at their place and running their equipment, doing business with their dealers. We deal with Heartland, which is a terrific dealer for Vermeer equipment. Not only are they great at selling us the equipment, their service is a driving force behind the relationship we have with Vermeer. Because if we had a dealer that wasn't any good, that would affect what we're going to buy next time. But I see these angles in everything that you do. I mean, you're not making this stuff up. This is good.
Yep. Love it. So now we're going to go a little bit deeper into this idea. I kind of say, every brand has a soul. And that may sound kind of strange, but it's true. Every brand, you can think of, I'm sure everybody here has been in contact with multiple, probably hundreds of brands already in their daily use, right? Of whatever is happening in your day, you come across brands all day long, and every one of those brands has this soul. And so, like I said, identifying and defining that for us here at Vermeer really starts with this idea of what our founder said way back in the 1940s of there's got to be a better way. So finding a better way is really what we identify as that kind of top of the pyramid, if you will, of what is this soul of Vermeer, and it's finding this better way. So Emily, if you want to advance the slide there, I think it'll go to kind of the build we've got. Yep, there we go. So again, kind of that soul piece, that top of the pyramid for us is this finding a better way. And then as we talked about before, really in that brand identity identity piece of the brand overall is this idea of values, right? And this thing of, okay, what exactly sets you apart? What we say here at Vermeer is it's all about our principles. Again, that 4P philosophy, one of those pieces in particular being principles, and then hard work and family. And again, you can kind of read through specifically what those are, but I'd like to touch on family a little bit further as well. And it's not just the idea that Vermeer is a family held company, 78 plus years now. It's the idea that the culture that we create here is all about this idea of a caring culture, right? Built upon strong relationships, open communication, and that unwavering commitment to one another. That's really a key piece to the Vermeer brand is when we bring somebody in, or hopefully Marty's experienced this coming to the mile as well,
Yes.
is understand that caring culture here that extends well beyond just team member to team member, but to those that we bring on as well.
You know, you just made me think of something, Derek. The years go by and I can't remember. Was it 6 years ago the tornado hit there?
2017, 2018, I think that's when, yeah, I
Okay,
wasn't
so
here on campus, but yes, years ago it was.
well, I had been there before the tornado and I had been there afterwards, and you could see the flagpoles that were twisted and the damage that it did to, was it building number two? And it was amazing that
Building, well, yeah, yep.
it was amazing, Derek, that no one was hurt. And I don't know if you have any of the
Yes.
details of that, but it was extraordinary what sprung into action when they got wind, pardon the pun, that the tornado was coming. It did millions of dollars worth of damage to the facility, but no one was hurt. And if you would have seen the damage, I think you would have thought there were fatalities, not just somebody hurt. Like it was bad. You want to speak a little bit to what went on there during, are you in a position to talk about what went on when the tornado happened and how
Yeah, so
everything?
yeah, I was not a team member. Yep, I wasn't a team member at that particular time, but I know, like I said, just, local here as well. Yes, like, when that did occur here, and I'm sure you can Google it, you can look it up online of the damage that happened here at Vermeer. And really, the team, really rallied around this idea of Vermeer strong, right? And again, that ties back to the culture here at Vermeer of caring for those around us, of making sure, yeah, like nobody now again it was a amazing a miracle obviously that nobody
Yes,
lost their life here during that
yes,
particular time. And there was an event actually going on, a customer event that was going on here too during that. So lots of communication, lots of making sure we had the right people in the right spots to make sure everybody was as safe as they could be, and being in, again, got a large campus here, trying to make sure people are, in designated spots and that. But yes, I mean, it was an incredible miracle that, yes, no loss of life. There was, some minor bruises, cuts, but if you saw the parking lots of
yeah,
cars stacked on top of one
yes.
another, right? Like
It's
buildings
unbelievable,
completely
right?
flattened. And again, yes, it is. Like I said, yeah, if you see the visuals of it, it is an absolute, yeah, it's amazing to see. And then to see, Vermeer strong coming back. And I know, President and CEO Jason Anderga had said, we're going to come back stronger than ever, after this. And boy, was he right. Like we did. We came back stronger than ever coming back from that. And it's really one of those things that I think highlights that hard work, that grit of Vermeer as well,
Yes.
is, hey, we understand this challenge and we're gonna come back even better than this.
So we're talking today with Derek DeHaan from Vermeer. He's the Senior Brand Experience Manager, Global Brand, and we're getting an insight in their brand. And basically, folks, if you're following along here, you're seeing that the brand is everything. It's the culture, it's the way somebody answers the front door, it's what you look like online, it's what Heartland, who is a dealer representing Vermeer, it's what their trucks look like. I was in San Antonio doing your national meeting several years ago, and there was a discussion amongst the dealers from Vermeer Corporate showing some pictures of trucks that dealers were running, and they were telling them, like, listen, you can't have a truck like this out there representing us. You got to get that cleaned up. Like that's not who we are. I just found it so fascinating. And when you hear the stories of the tornado, and if you would have seen the place, folks, you'd be amazed that someone didn't die. I mean, honestly, that was all intentional. That just,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it was a miracle, but there was a lot of planning that went into place. I know when we have had Trevor out here or Ben, and they've done demos and anything that we've been videoing, anything from Vermeer, if they are here, the operator has to have full protective equipment on. You got to have the helmet on, you got to have the safety goggles, the gloves, the boots, the long pants. And all that is because Vermeer does not want a picture out associated with their brand that shows the equipment being used in an unsafe manner. So I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, and Derek can't say this, but I can, like, ladies and gentlemen, you're either going to be serious about your company and what you're trying to do or you're not. And I don't care if you have 5 people and you're a startup and you've joined us today, or you're a multi-branch company doing over $100 million a year. These are all lessons that we're talking about that separates winners from losers. And this is the kind of stuff that's important, that we focus on the sign that's behind us for when we do our Zooms and our other things, and that we're paying attention to not just what we're saying, but what is around us and in the frame is also communicating about the brand.
Absolutely. Great way to say it, Marty. And so, yeah, if we keep building on this slide, you'll see, our external expression, kind of the tagline that we put out to the world, all builds back really to this idea of finding a better way. We're equipping our world to do more, right? And that means, not necessarily like doing more work. It's equipping our world to find that better way to do their important work. I have a sign in my office here as well, and it says, we relentlessly pursue and believe in finding a better way to get important work done. And that's both here internally, like within my brand experience team, as well as talking about product, right? And understanding we're trying to make better product, smarter product to help our customers do the important work that they're made to do. That's what we're built for.
So let me ask you this, Derek. So we've got several, I recognize many of the companies that have joined us today. We've got several smaller companies that have 30 or less employees. How do you, from day one, what are you doing in the hiring process, the onboarding? Like, let's just say I came to work for you next week. You hired me to work in your marketing department underneath you. How do you get me to catch the spirit? Like, what can our small operators that have joined us today, what can they glean from what you're doing that could be implemented in their business to get this ball rolling in the right direction in terms of brand and culture?
Yeah, I think, to me, culture it's all about people. It's all about relationships. So starting with that of understanding you want to be around the right people, right? Hiring the right people around you that you don't even like, you want to be around these individuals because you're going to be around them for what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. So of course, like
Right.
that relationship piece has to be first and foremost. And then really, once you start building upon that relational aspect of things and understanding, yes, this is going to be a good teammate, here, like I think that becomes the easier or the thread that basically ties you to, oh, this is the way that they interact with one another, right? This is the way that I'm then intended to be interacting as well. So hoping to, or I would say helping, and hoping to elevate that too of those individuals that you bring on, that they're seeing that, and it's not just talk. It has to be in action as well. It can't just be words that said. It actually has to be put into action.
Amen. Well said. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so let's kind of keep going on this brand piece as well. And again, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about is brand. So I really appreciate this opportunity again. But you can read all these different quotes, and like I said, these are all really great. I love them myself personally. But what we talk about here at Vermeer a lot is this idea of like, let's just say everything else was wiped away from Vermeer. But if we had the brand piece in place, all of the infrastructure is gone. All the tornado took out the entire mile, right? Like the brand is the most critical aspect of holding on to that, keeping that safe and secure. And that means less of the physical and more of the, again, that reputation around the brand of understanding, hey, look, this is who Vermeer is. And they're consistently this way. They're authentic in this. They're not just saying these things. They live these things out. They live the principles out that they're about. No matter what happens, like I said, physically, if you will, with the brand or the business or the facilities or all these different things that could happen. The brand is always still there in that key element that holds it all together.
Amen. So well said.
And then this is one thing that I just talk about, specifically, with us, but also for, yeah, all businesses is this uncovering of your why. So understand who you are. That's really a piece that I would love for everybody here to, really reflect upon. Like, why are you in existence as a business? What is the brand that you've created, that you are creating? It comes to that. Like, I would think of it this way, like, why is it that I started this business? Think back to that. Like, and if I think back to that here personally at Vermeer, it's Gary Vermeer in 1943 developed a mechanical wagon hoist, honestly, just for himself to do better work, more important work, more easily on the farm. He's a farmer. He's trying to understand, hey, I've got this back-breaking effort of loading grain,
Right.
unloading this. I'm going to develop this mechanical wagon hoist to help on the farm. Well, guess what? All his neighboring farmers see this amazing, invention that he's got. They all want one of these things. They say, Gary, build me one of these. He says, okay, I'll build you one of these. And that's basically how the business began. That's our why. It's Gary saying and looking internally at how can I make things easier, not only for myself, but for my neighbors, for my customers, potentially that might be out there as well. And that same spirit continues to drive us today. And again, that ties back to this idea of this finding a better way, right? Like Gary was consistently trying to find this better way to do important work, both for himself and for those that were around him. And I love that. So like I said, think about those things within your business of why do you exist? What is the thing that sets you apart for why you're doing what you do?
I think there's so much that we could talk about there, Derek. I know the biggest thing that I find mistakes owners and leaders of landscaping companies make, which is who we have on with us today, they're kind of they're not aware of how important telling the team the why is. And I think a lot of it has to do with, metaphorically speaking, I liken an org chart to a bus, and the top of the org chart's the front seat of the bus, metaphorically speaking, and the owners and the leaders are in the front seat, and they don't think that it would matter to explain to them why we need to plant a tree correctly, all the things that can happen if we don't do it correctly. We just start teaching how to plant a tree. We don't share financial information because we're afraid that our team might take it and use it to hurt us. When you don't share the information, the team assumes, either bad or good things. They don't know the truth. And I think engagement is not what it could be and is sacrificed in that process. And I just think there's a lot. I know as a little boy, I would ask my dad, why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? And my dad could fix anything. And he would often say, all right, listen, let me get this fixed. And then when I get it fixed, I'm going to come in the house and get you. And I want to show you all, because he was trying to put an alternator on or something. And I'm like, what's that for? What's this wrench
Mm.
for? What's that like? I was a curious little boy. And my dad, like, satisfied the curiosity by saying, hey, listen, I want you to come out and I want to show you what we're doing. And I can remember this, Derek, like it was yesterday, and it was over 50 years ago about. And he had the wrenches laid out. He had the old alternator there. He showed me where it came from. And I mean, I learned a ton from him slowing down long enough to show me the why. And I think that a lot of times we're in
Yeah.
such a hurry with our business that we don't slow down long enough to tell the why. And I'll be blunt with everyone today on this playbook webinar. When I had an epiphany was when Emily, who introduced us, is also my oldest daughter. When she got her first job outside of Grunder Landscaping, she was, I think, 17, or maybe it was 18. And she was telling me what they did for onboarding and how they showed her what the business was all about. And I'm listening to her, Derek, and I'm like, I'm not doing any of that. Like, I'm really missing something here, filling people in on why we do what we do. And to your point with Gary Vermeer from 1943, finding a better way to work on the farm and it evolving into all the things that you guys do now, directional boring equipment, mining equipment, horizontal grinders, stump grinders, I mean, pipe pullers. It's crazy how it all opened up. And I have to think that that why part and the curiosity there and however you said that was the relentless pursuit of finding a better way, or I forget how you said it. That isn't,
Yep. Nope. That's right.
you can't just put that up on the wall and have everybody come in and say, now read that. That's what you want to do. There has to be stories told of Travis who demonstrated a relentless pursuit to make it better. And here's how he made the Vermeer Mini Skid Steer better. And Travis, we're recognizing you this month. It's Travis month at Vermeer. And I don't, that's not exactly what you folks do, but it's all of that, folks. It's not a robotic, like mechanical thing. It's got some touchy feely to it where you're recognizing your people for coming along on the journey and doing what you want to do. Derek talked about your culture being everything. He's absolutely right there. Culture is what's going on when you're not there. And if you're not telling people why you're doing things, showing them examples, recognizing the people on your team that went that extra mile and showed the why mattered to them, it's going to be really hard to get this kind of a culture in place.
Yeah, and we love telling stories of our people, of voice of customer, of understanding, hey,
Exactly.
our people talked to these customers and they uncovered these challenges, and this is what we brought back. We woke up this morning, we drew something on I've heard stories of other teammates talking about, hey, so and so drew like literally drew something on a napkin, and that became this particular product, right?
Oh
And
my
those things are
gosh.
happening outside maybe of your normal 9 to 5 as well. And that's that idea of this relentless pursuit of this better way, right? And that stems again from the foundation, of the business.
And again, the comfort for somebody to know that it's okay to speak up with a new idea. There's a lot of organizations that
Yes.
stifle that. They don't have a culture where it's okay to ask something, or if you ask something, you're brushed off, or maybe you have a suggestion box, but the suggestion box hasn't been emptied in 3 years. Like that ain't gonna work. So I think
Nope.
it's a great topic of discussion.
Yes. Okay, and then we talked a little bit. You even started to hit on this, Marty, a little bit of that kind of emotional, this deeper sense, right? And then really the idea of brand too, to me, is this idea of you can gain behavior. There can be a behavior, although behavior can go one way or another in multiple ways. But you want to move from even behavior to this idea of commitment within the brand, right? So your business moving from a customer's, hey, I have a behavior of I'm starting to believe in this brand, in this business, and in doing something with them, and really having this commitment. What we almost call in our terms is like, brand loyalty, or buying at the brand level of, no matter what, I know as a customer of Vermeer, when I need a new drill, or when I need a new surface mount, or whatever the product is, a brush strip or mini loader, whatever it is, I'm not necessarily thinking about all those other details other than I'm getting a Vermeer, I'm getting a piece of yellow iron. I know that commitment's going to be there. And that's, like I
Right.
said, moving from more of that head knowledge into kind of that heart knowledge. And that's truly what we're after.
Amen. Well said.
And that kind of really spawns into this idea of, you see the three words on screen here, I have good, great, and special. And so you've got good, like there's good marketing, there's good ways to do things. And that really centers around this idea of, I say good is all about selling features. Okay, I'm going to sell a feature of a mini loader or a brush chipper or stump, whatever it is that I'm selling. That's good. Like, customers need to understand what those features are of a particular product or service that you're offering. That's good. And then you can move to great, right? Great marketing, I say, sells the benefits, right? So this is a result of what those features are. This particular thing is going to give me X as a benefit because of the feature that it's got. And that's great. So we're moving from good to great. And then you have a third tier that I say, and this is into this special place. And this is really about the power and the emotional effect or feel of a brand. And that's where, again, moving from that behavior to commitment is all about this feeling around a brand. Again, everybody on here can list off hundred of brands that they've dealt with or they understand. And you, right when you would say the name of a brand, somebody's going to have an emotional feel of, I feel positive about that brand or I feel negative about that brand for whatever reason. And it's because of the experience, of course, that they've had with it, whether it be on that positive or negative side. And what we're obviously after here is creating that emotional power of the brand, speaking to the overall experience that somebody has with our brand, no matter what it is.
Amen. There's a great book. I think it's about 20 years old now. It's by Jim Collins called Good to Great, where he talks about how good is the enemy of great because we're satisfied, it's good, we're doing well. There's a fear that I'm going to mess this thing up, so I'm just gonna leave it alone. And there's dangers in doing that, folks. You sit idle, you let someone else pass you by. I've never seen this with Vermeer, but you've elevated great to special, which is certainly what your equipment is. There are a lot of mini skid steers on the market. We've tried them. We don't like them. We like Vermeer.
Mhm.
And I think moving your brand along those lines, I see that. And I like the way that you talked about the experience. I think sometimes we look at, again, if Heartland, your dealer here that we work with in Ohio, if they weren't any good, we might go and try and use somebody else. But I know that you folks spend hours training your dealers. There are dealer meetings. If a dealer doesn't perform, they can be removed. So, I mean, there's a real level of seriousness that is taken. And I think the same thing goes with your own business. If you install landscapes, but you don't do a good job maintaining them, you sell the job and then the experience is downhill from there. You're never going to get to what Derek talks about here and having a special situation and have an experience that not only does it want to make somebody do business with you again, I think even just as important of that is the referrals that can come from a happy client. So, loved your comments on that.
Yes, and then we've developed the brand. We're understanding what the brand is. So now it's time we're putting it into action, right? We're putting our brand, our messaging into action. And so we kind of say here, right, get it right. So get the right audience, right? Targeting that right audience in the right way or at the right time, and with that right content and messaging that needs to resonate with them. So what we say here too is, we want to understand the customer from all levels, from the very start of things, is understanding how do we speak properly to the customer, and then getting in front of them again in that right way and at the right time with those proper messages that are going to resonate with them, that aren't going to go, oh, well, they don't understand us, the way that actually we speak or the way that we actually think on this particular product or this service or the way that they're trying to show up here. So understanding all of that together, but this is really putting all of it kind of into action then. And then if we go to the next slide, this really puts a button on it as well. It's basically saying, once we've got this right, audience right way and right time and getting that right content and messaging, then we're starting to understand as we go along this measurement piece, right? Everybody always wants to understand, well, what's the measurement that we're going after to make sure that we're resonating in the marketplace? And there's multiple ways of doing this. Us here specifically, I mean, we're working specifically with our digital team of understanding how do we track those key metrics, all right? So monitoring KPIs, right? Our key performance indicators like website traffic, the engagement rates, social media comments or mentions, right? Conversions rates. How many people are we driving to our dealer webpage to get in contact with the dealer? Those are key areas that we know if we can drive people, get people into these spots, that's going to have a great return, right, to our bottom line and what we're after. And then, like I said, if you go from tracking to analyzing all about using those tools to then analyze those key metrics, right? So you could talk about Google Analytics, social media analytics to understand your brand story, how it's performing, right? How is it resonating with the audience that you have? And then lastly, the optimize and adapt. So as you're seeing, as you're measuring, as you're understanding, and as you're analyzing, you're then understanding, well, we need to shift our focus from this to this. This is working or this is not working. If this piece is working, let's maybe go a little bit heavier on this particular piece of storytelling, right? Or on this messaging or within this channel. And maybe something isn't performing as well as what you want. Don't be afraid to do a little bit of pivoting, understanding what's actually hitting and what's not. Like I said, making those adjustments along the way. That's what's got to be done because the marketplace and customer expectations are dynamic. Everything is changing. If it's not day to day, week to week, month to month, everything is changing so quickly in those spaces too. So being flexible, being nimble, understanding what those are, that is such a key piece to bringing it, full circle and getting your brand in the right spots, in the right way, with that right content and messaging that will resonate.
I'm going to bring Emily. Why don't you turn your camera on and come in for this? Because this last slide is a lot that we have been working on at Grunder Landscaping Company and quite frankly, the brand. You want to comment on Derek's slide here on measuring and maybe how that goes into what you're doing as our director of marketing at Grunder Landscaping? I think it might provide a nice summary on this last slide that maybe helps people see another way they can apply this.
Yeah, so we redid our website last year, Derek. So to do, and truthfully, a lot of the improvements were really SEO driven. Our old website was created. It was a little outdated at this point, but the bigger problem is we were doing a lot more commercial work, so our brand position had changed. We were in a different doing different kinds of work, and our website structure no longer worked to talk about those two different types of work in the way they need to be talked about. Residential versus commercial clients just need very different information when making a decision, and they search very different things when finding our website. So we did the website refresh, and as part of
Mhm.
that, we now have like more capabilities as far as link tracking and analytics go than we had with the old site. Um, but really, we rely pretty heavily on just old-fashioned asking people how they heard about us when they call in. And the sales team is tracking that in Aspire, and then we can review it. And when I pulled all that data at the end of last year, I did it at the end of 2025 as I was setting up our marketing budget and our marketing plan for 2026 for Grunder Landscaping. And what I found is, I mean, over 50%, it's probably more like 60% of the leads, they're citing things when they call in that I, as the marketing manager, have actually no control over. So they're citing things like your reputation, a referral. I see your trucks in my neighborhood all the
Mhm.
time. Things that like are not, I can't throw more budget at an ad campaign and get more leads those ways. And so it's not, that really wasn't eye-opening. We knew that that was the case. But I think it goes back to something that you talked about earlier, just like knowing who you are and who your brand is. Knowing who we are, it's so important, and it's important for our crews, every member of our crew, to understand the role that they play in generating new leads for us. Because the work that they're doing when they're out working on properties, everything they're doing right now on our current jobs, that's selling the next job, it's getting us leads for next year, and that's what's going to sustain the business. Now, we get leads from other things, so we're also looking at like, okay, what are we doing that's working, what's not working? How can we maybe better measure some of those things? So, like our postcard mailings, we know they work because we see a spike in people calling after the postcard hits mailboxes. But we're going to use tracking QR codes this year so that we can actually see like, are they scanning that exact link? Is it actually the postcard that's doing it, or is it just that the postcards are hitting right at the, a week that it happens to also be warm out? But yeah, it's definitely something that I think larger companies have more resources for. So the resources that Vermeer has on this measuring, I think, are really different from the resources that we have. But I think that it doesn't make it any less important to be paying attention to the data and what the data is telling you, even if you are a smaller company.
And I think Emily makes a great
Yeah, and
point.
again, like Emily's saying, yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Derek.
Yep. Go ahead, Marty. Well, I was just
Well,
going to say, yeah, like, Emma's making great points, and she's saying too, again, that consistency in that reputation out in the field, right? Like what we say at Vermeer too is, who are the faces of Vermeer? It's our dealerships. It's our people at the dealerships. They are the ones that are in front of our customers every single day, right? And so the reputation that they're putting out there as their local dealer, right, for them, that again tying back to us as well, that is so key in creating that culture and that reputation that gets out there, that is authentic and genuine, no matter if you're on this coast or that coast, right? If you're on this part of the world or that part of the world, for us either.
and I think one of the things that we all, I'm not saying I realized this entirely in my first 10 years of business, but certainly in my last 30 years of business, I have salespeople like myself will spend an hour or two If it's a very large job, okay, maybe you get 10 hours you're spending with the client. The job and your reputation is ultimately going to be formed by the work that the team does and what the in the landscaping industry, it's going to be formed by what the client sees and experiences. You have to be impressed with Derek today. If you go to Vermeer, you'd be impressed if you saw their factory and what they're doing. But if you get a machine delivered to you and it doesn't start right when they take it off the truck, and then you take it in for service and you have a horrible experience, all that other stuff that you're trying so hard to show a client who you can be falls apart. So a brand, to Derek's point, is all encompassing. And we do work hard at Grunder Landscaping about training our people. And that's why something like the narrative that Derek and I spent 5 or 10 minutes on there talking about why, that's why, pardon the pun, that's why that stuff is so important to talk about and to have your team not just be wandering aimlessly through a job, pulling a lever or pushing a shovel, that there's a sense of purpose and they understand what success looks like at the end of the day. We just did some safety training yesterday morning, Derek, and it was on driving. And the handout is down, it's downstairs on the table. It's in English and in Spanish. Everybody had it. They had to sign off on it. One of the lines says, you will drive your truck in the inside lane, in the slow lane, and you will not pass unless a car is driving under the speed limit or there's a safety call or something like that. Otherwise, get over in that lane. We don't want our trucks going down the outside lane, passing people at 75 miles an
Oh,
hour,
no.
even if that would let them get to the job faster to make it more profitable because we'd have less indirect time, which is travel time. We don't want that. It's part of our brand that when
Mhm.
people see our trucks and our people, it's a positive experience. Derek's with us today. He's not doing it from his garage. All right. He even painstakingly has a nifty little backdrop. That's all this stuff. And if we did in a small way, I hope we convince you to see the importance of all the elements of your brand, that they're always saying something. And like I always like to say, is you're either impressing or depressing. You got to be impressing to win in business. Derek, any final words before we ask for questions?
No, again, I appreciate the opportunity here. And yeah, like I said, wishing everybody the best. And yeah, like let us answer any questions that you got.
Yeah,
Emily,
so if you have any questions for Derek, Marty, or me, feel free to send them. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to send them to us or send them through the chat and we'll get them answered. I do have a couple from the attendees to get us started. So the first question, Derek, how do you create consistency? What tools do you have? How do you enforce it? What does the actual administration look like for that brand consistency for you guys?
Yeah, so for us, I mean, we use some different, softwares or like libraries, if you will, to make sure that our team members are utilizing, approved logos or typefaces, right? Or color palette. Like we have those certain platforms that we're using to make sure, but we also have, times where we're meeting together, whether it be with, our creative teams of understanding, hey, here's how the brand needs to be put out there creatively and messaging wise, right? So we're having those conversations. I mean, we have those weekly, or also even on that local enablement level, right? The dealer level of meeting with them regularly so they understand bringing that brand out into the marketplace, into their local areas. They're utilizing that consistency as well. So they're able to use those assets. They're able to understand, hey, I can talk to so and so if I have a question on this. I mean, my door is always open. I have other, members messaging me, hey, does this look all right? Is this approved? Hey, is this okay for messaging? That's awesome. Like I love hearing that and having them wanting to put the brand out there in a consistent manner.
Marty, do you have any feedback for how you've done something similar with the Grunder Landscaping team? Do you guys have like an approval process or anything like that?
I think I mean, there's a couple things, Emily. I think the farther you go down in the org chart, the more, and I want to say this right, because I'm not trying to infer your entry level people aren't smart, but the higher up in the org chart, like you, I don't have to explain to you what a good job looks like. I find visuals, pictures, things like that talk about and show what good means. I think you have to tell your team that, look, part of our brand is quality, and when we do things, we leave a site better than when we found it. So, I mean, if there's an angle that you think I should be sharing that I'm not sharing, let me know. But I think it's a lot of things, and I think again, we may think that it's obvious why we're doing something. I think that just further drives home the point as to why you explain the why. And you're constantly talking about it and calling out the people that are demonstrating the behaviors that you want to see present in the organization. Um, do you have an angle you'd like to share that you see us do that maybe I'm overlooking?
I don't think so, but I think the thing that's important for people to realize is even though I handle the marketing at GLC, like there's a lot of different hats being worn at our landscaping company, as I know there are for others. And so it's like not really feasible for us to have like a single person who sees
No,
every single
right.
logo before it goes out. It just doesn't happen. I mean, we try and it doesn't happen. So there's always something that goes rogue. But I don't know that I was interested to hear Derek's answer on that because I don't know that we've thought through like how could we maybe communicate better with the team what those brand standards are so that we maybe have to do less reviewing on the back end and be a little bit more proactive about it.
I
So,
think we probably spend a lot of time talking about client satisfaction.
mhm.
You know, we have a narrative, Emily, around no surprises. I just believe that people don't like surprises. We try to communicate well. And I think maybe the most important point to make here that Derek made, your brand is everything. It's the work you're doing, it's how your men look, it's the letter that you send to a client in the mail, it's the logo on your truck that's, peeled off because it's been out in the sun and you just let it go. It's the dent in your truck. I mean, I just think there's so much, like it's never ending. And you almost and I forget the name of the company. It was a prominent company, and they called their team brand protectors. Like instead of employees, they said they were brand protectors. And so to me, it's like a mindset. Like we're not going to give a client any reason or prospect any reason to think we aren't what our marketing says. Um, if you're doing creative design, build residential work, and your trucks look bad, and your people show up in t-shirts and the like, I just think like that's not consistent. Like I heard somebody say one time that United Airlines that their employees must not read their marketing because there's such a disconnect between what you get from the employees and what their commercials and everything else said. Now, United Airlines has got a little bit better. This was back when there was a guy and he did a whole song called United Breaks Guitars, and United was getting smashed on everything. But I think that kind of stuff is true. Like you today with the internet and other things, I mean, somebody can wipe you out they can't wipe you out, but they can do some damage with a bad review in 5 seconds. So I just think that there is really a strong case to be made that your branding is very important, but don't just look at the brand as it's not just your logo. It's everything. It's the experience. It's the whole thing.
And Marty, you bring up a great point that I should have mentioned when talking about, the where most of our leads come through and where most of our good leads come through. It's seeing our trucks and our teams out working.
Right.
So how big of an opportunity are we missing out on if our team is not in uniform? That makes it clear who they work for. If our trucks aren't clearly branded and easily recognizable. I know I've in my old neighborhood seen crews out working and I've been walking. I'm like, oh, that's like a really nice looking property. It's a nice house. The outside looks good. They're in an unbranded white truck and everybody's in their own t-shirt
Yeah.
and jeans. So, I mean, they clearly work for a company because I know enough about landscaping companies. Like they have enough professional equipment. You're not just like,
Yeah. It's
some
not the
freelancer
homeowner.
doing it on the
Right.
side, but like
Right.
nobody knows who you are. So you're really missing out on an opportunity if you're not doing all those branded pieces.
Amen.
Yeah, I
Derek?
would say just to piggyback off what exactly you guys are saying, those small things that you might think are super small, those are those details that matter, right? Out in the
Mhm.
market, out in that reputation space of your brand. So pay attention to those little details. Don't just
Yeah.
say, "Oh, we'll take care of that later." Like that doesn't really matter. No, the small details are the important things. They can be those big things that are from a win to a loss.
I think that's the best thing that's been said all day. That is so true, and it can really matter. Some of these little micro improvements you can make, consistency around the brand and paying attention to it and realizing that everything you put out there is communicating something and you're either impressing or depressing.
Okay, I have one more question from an attendee, and then I think we'll be wrapping up here. This one came from Lauren. She asked, "How do you use your brand to differentiate from competitors? Everyone in our area claims to be the best and do quality work. If we feel that that's what we do as well, how do we stand out? Do you have any advice?"
To me, again, you go back to your why. Why are you in existence specifically, right? And yes, of course, maybe your competitors are saying the exact same messaging the way that they're doing it. The experience that somebody has with you again is going to be what resonates, is understanding, hey, look, I've had this great experience with this person or with this business and this thing, right? That's ultimately what it's going to be. So making sure you can, you're trying to get into those experience spaces and understanding, hey, look, when somebody experiences, just like we say, hey, somebody experiences the mile, we know that they're going to be bought in. All right. And so that's the differentiator, I think, is again, understanding your why and always driving after that and making sure that that's authentic and genuine. And you're not just saying something, you're actually living it out.
And I think that is so true what Derek is saying there. And I guess the other thing I would say, I subscribe to the adage that what others say about you is infinitely more impressive and convincing than what you say about yourself. So it's one thing if I go to your marketing and it says, we're known for our quality and our service, and Lauren, you're worried that everyone else is saying that. It's a whole other thing if there's 5 testimonials on the website that say that, and maybe you make a bold claim like many proclaim this to be their competitive advantage. How about calling us and we'll show you why it really truly is ours. I think at a certain point, and Emily will tell you this about me, like I think you have to be bold. Like if that's what you think is your competitive advantage, then you got to stick your neck out there and make a promise that gets somebody to say, "All right, let's see it, Marty. You say you're so good, let me see it." And then have a team that is prepared to go produce like that. Nobody said business was easy. Business is not for the faint of heart. It's difficult. And if you want to win, you're going to have to do a little bit more than the other guy or gal.
Yeah, and Lauren, to add on to what Marty is saying there, some ways that we kind of amplify what our clients are saying about us. We'll post if we get a good Google review, we'll post it on social media too. We'll use that. We'll ask clients that we know are very happy with us to do testimonial type videos. Those can be professional. I actually don't, I think sometimes a less polished video almost performs better and speaks more in our industry because it feels a little bit more authentic. So I don't even think you need to have a big video budget. I think you can shoot it on an iPhone on a tripod, and that is completely fine.
These cameras on those iPhones are amazing.
Yeah, so those
Mhm.
testimonials, I think just again sharing the real words, even if it's not like exactly how you would maybe say it yourself, can be more powerful, I think, and a great way to drive that point home to try to differentiate yourself.
And then Lauren, go work hard and just outwork all your competition and show through your passion and your enthusiasm, your response time, your showmanship, the logo on your truck, the logo on your shirt, doing what you said you would do. All that stuff just backs up that promise you made with the brand. Derek, thank you. That
Yeah.
was fun. This is a topic near and dear to my heart. You did a great job sharing the story. We love Vermeer. We appreciate it, and maybe we can get you back sometime.
Hey, sounds great. Again, appreciate the opportunity. Hope everybody has a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Derek. So that was Derek
Thanks,
DeHaan
guys.
from Vermeer and Emily Lindley producing today. So, on behalf of the Grow Group and the playbook that we produced with Landscape Management Magazine, we appreciate you joining us on our final Landscape Playbook webinar. Have a great day. Happy spring.